producers know how to do that when we're making beats. We're doing the same thing here. So that was a smooth transition, and that was easy because the two tracks that I blended in are already the same tempo. What do you do when we're mixing two tracks with a different tempo?
Let's be honest, you're not gonna find these videos anywhere else. Why? Because I make them. So it would really help me out if you subscribe. If you've already subscribed, what also really helps is if you like the video and leave a comment. It's hard in the era of clickbait videos on YouTube and negativity in the producer community, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. So the basics of mixing in the sense of DJ mixing, not audio engineer mixing, are not at all foreign to anybody that's made some halfway decent beats. I don't know, pretty much any producer that I've interviewed has talked about adding value and wearing more than one hat. Therefore, this whole DJing thing, I know plenty of producers who ended up taking on the DJ role when they were producing for musicians, working on projects, because that's the reason I started DJing. I started DJing because I was making beats for artists. Also, I wanted to DJ. It looked fun, but the main incentive was I was making beats for artists, and I was watching them go on stage and perform and get all the love and have all the fun. I'm like, nah, I can't just be here in the crowd watching. I need to take a more active role in this, in the performance of the music that I helped create. So I started DJing, and so I'm looking at it from an entirely different standpoint, I think, than most people who are trying to teach, appreciate that, who are trying to teach the concepts of DJing. So here's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to boil it down to one easy concept. I truly believe that all you need to know to transition from producing to DJing on a basic level is just this one concept, which is time signature. And let's be real. Oh, shout out to John. Let's be real. Virtually all of the beats that we make and all of the songs that we listen to, all the popular contemporary hip hop, R&B, and pop, it's all pretty much in 4/4 time. And so that makes things easy, or at least straightforward to us. 4/4 time, aka standard time. It's a reason it's called standard time. It's everywhere. That means each measure of our beat or our song has 4 quarter notes, right? So hopefully we know this. I'll ease us into this in case it's just one of those things that we know intuitively, but we don't know in a more obvious sense. So the other thing that's a part of understanding the time signature is at the very first beat. So if we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4 in a beat, 1, 2, 3, 4, that first beat is called the downbeat of the measure. And really, that's all the background that you need to know, honestly. So let's get into it. Rather than just jump onto the turntables, though, I want to take a different approach just to start. I want to show you what this looks like in a DAW, because that's what we're familiar with. It'll make a lot of sense, and then we'll jump to the turntables and to Serato. But I'm going to start with just my DAW, which is going to look like everything else. I have beats loaded up because I was like, I'm going to mix some actual songs, but then I realized copyright, can't do that. So these are just beats that I made. So I'm going to start with this track, and as you can see, it's labeled 72 beats per minute. I know it's 72, so I set my project tempo to 72. It's on my store. It's Cardi B type beat. And already, I can just turn the metronome on, and we can listen to the counts of the beats. So you're hearing that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Damn near anything and everything involving sequencing with our beats works on multiples of 4. You know, 4-bar or 8-bar intro, 16-bar verse, 12-bar verse, 8-bar chorus. You know, 4 is a factor of 8. Math terms. All of these numbers can be broken down by 4. And 4 time, 4 counts in a measure. 4 is just the magic number for DJing and for everything I'm about to show you today. So as I said, we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4. The first beat, that 1, that's the downbeat. So the downbeat is important. When you see DJs doing this all the time and you don't hear any sound, you just see them doing that. I get people asking me all the time, why are DJs always doing this? I'll show you why. It has to do with the downbeat. We're just ready to drop the downbeat. That's all it is. And you can get creative when you're more comfortable with time. You don't always have to jump. You don't always have to drop on the downbeat. You can drop on whatever beat you want, as long as you're aware of how the two tracks interact. So here we are. Now I have another beat here that is also 72 beats per minute, which means these are the exact same tempo, right? So when this beat drops, actually, when you convert to MP3, there's like a little sample time added at the beginning. So I have to make sure they're perfect. So I have these two tracks. Here's one that's at 72 as well. Very different sounding beat, but let's overlap them. Let's see what happens when I just, as you can see, here's the downbeat, but this is the intro section. So I'm going to put the intro section, I'm going to overlap it with my other beat. And this is the hook or verse section. Let's hear how this transition sounds. Won't sound great, but because they're the same tempo, it should sound at least smooth. So that was a pretty smooth transition, and it has to do with the fact that these two beats are, one, they're in the same time signature, but that's a given, but two, they're the same tempo. Now we can do more with the transition. So for example, if I want them to overlap more, I could just add something basic like a volume fade here. Then it'll be more gradual. So that sounds way smoother now because we have the volume fade. We can make it even smoother if, say, we automate something like the EQ, and we could automate, let's do like a low pass, no, a high pass, a low cut. So I could automate the low frequencies here by doing this, by just moving the, oh, not the frequency. Wrong parameter. Somebody should have told me I was making a mistake. Gain. Yeah, so I can automate that. So that way, as this beat is fading out and this beat is coming in, we're going to hear the low frequencies gradually drop out. And I'm going to fade this new beat in so it's more gradual. We're going to get a way smoother transition now. Because now there's no fighting. The frequencies aren't going to fight with each other. Right? This makes sense to us because this is production. This doesn't feel like DJing, but what I'm doing is mixing. These same concepts, this is how DJs mix. We're just doing it live rather than in a DAW. Now things are going to get more complicated when we throw reality into the picture, because as we know, not every song is the same tempo. We don't want songs to all be the same tempo. That would be really boring. It would be easy to DJ. But let's say we have this track here. This is 70. Now, what do we do if we want to blend a track that's 72 beats per minute in with a track that's 70 beats per minute? If we overlap them, it's going to sound crazy. There's that pause. Some DJs do this. I don't know why. It sounds terrible. Hopefully, I'm not going to teach you how to crash mix. It's called crash mixing because it literally sounds like a car crash. So there are a lot of things we could do. There's a cheap way. I don't recommend doing this because you can't always get away with it. But we could do a quick mix where we just say, all right, I'm just going to pull this downbeat right up to the end of this track. So it's going to sound like, even though they're different tempos, at least the downbeat is coming in at the right time. At least the downbeat is coming in 1, 2, 3, 4, drop 1, 2, 3, 4, you know? So you can do that live. A lot of DJs do that. If you're struggling to mix two tracks, you just want to do something really quick, or maybe the track is weird, there's no intro, sometimes you just have to do this, and that's fine. And it'll actually sound good. Right, so that didn't sound terrible, but we want it to be smoother than that. So as producers, what are ways that we can get one track that's faster than the other to, hot drop. That's some people call it a hot drop. So that's what I just showed you. The other option, the better option, the smoother option is, and Remedy Born says effects. That too. And you can do all of this stuff live. That's just a little more advanced. I'm trying to teach you the basics here, so you have a strong foundation. But yeah, you can do all that stuff. I think the right answer is change the tempo, because we want to bring 72 down to 70, or we want to bring 70 up to 72. Now in a DAW, we can just time stretch, right? There are other ways. Obviously, we can, change the pitch of this 70 so that it's a little faster, and just kind of pray that it works out for us. And as you can see, when we zoom in, it's not really going to work out, but we can try. So we could just kind of chop and nudge, and DJs nudge all the time. We don't want to have to do it. But if you're mixing records, like all mix old school stuff, like non-hip hop stuff that wasn't recorded to a click track, like 70s records, they weren't really doing too many click tracks back then. So you have to nudge. You might have to do this, and then we fade out. So we can't really chop a record live. We can nudge it live. This is where things are different. The concept is the same. The basic concept is we want to match two tracks to the same tempo. That's all we want to do. We just want a tempo match. We want a beat match. We want to blend. That's what mixing is. We want to blend. Things that don't mix don't sound well, so they're not well mixed. So mixing is about blending things, and everything sounds good. So that's what we want to do live. The good news is it's way easier because of the anatomy of a turntable. And now here's where things are going to get tricky, because I'm going to try to transition over to yet another broadcasting platform. Let's see how this goes. I'm going to mute myself here as I enter my alter ego. How I was talking about
tempo matching, and how I said it was easier on a turntable to do it live because you don't have to chop or anything. So that's what this is. We have the pitch time faders or knob, whatever it is. So each one of these tends to be, unless you mess with the pitch range, and especially on a traditional analog turntable, each one of these notches is like around basically 1 BPM, and you'll figure it out once you work more on whatever turntable you're using. So let's say I'm back to wanting to mix those two different records. I'm gonna utilize that, and that's gonna be way easier than having to pitch and this and that. Not gonna have to chop. I'm not gonna have to do anything. I'm just gonna use that dial, and then I'm gonna use my ears and my eyes to see that my two tracks are synced up. That's also the beauty of digital. Whereas when we were using just turntables, completely analog records, there wasn't that visual element. So I'm going to turn the visual element back on. And I'm one of those visual people. I use a visual DAW. I think a lot of us do. Logic, Ableton, all visual. So I have to be counting that whole time to make sure that I know when the dap beat comes in. So check this out. We'll do it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Anytime I hit that 1, I can drop this new one in. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can just keep doing that and doing that, because it's going to make sense in terms of the time signature. If I were to do anything else, if I were to do it on an off count, it would sound like a mess. So if I'm not even counting and I just... That's terrible. I'm going to get fired from the club, hopefully, if it's a decent place. I don't know what kind of clubs people go to. So yeah, we want to make sure that everything works. And so I'm going to show you again how to do this live with 2 different tracks. Same tempo, 2 different tracks. Now, remember I showed EQ and everything, right? Hopefully you can see this. The anatomy of the mixer is something that should be, matter of fact, I'm gonna go straight to my camera here so you can get a close up. The anatomy of the mixer is so similar to in a DAW because, one, we know what volume faders are. So this is the left turntable. Whatever's playing on the left turntable, I'm controlling the volume. Whatever's playing on the right turntable, I'm controlling the volume. This is a horizontal fader. Same concept, but when it comes to scratching, this gets a little different, and I'll explain that at some point. But again, left, right, they're just channel strips. Low, mid, high. We have an EQ here. We have a gain here. We have effects, we have filters, we have panning. So remember how I showed you in the DAW version of the mixing demo, if this turntable is playing and all of my EQ knobs are set to 12 o'clock and I'm getting the full range of frequencies, then maybe I want to start in by when I start playing this, the volume's going to be lower. I'm going to gradually fade in, and maybe I'm going to also be gradually EQing this one in as I'm gradually EQing and fading this one out. It sounds like you're doing a lot at once, but it's you get used to it. It's not that crazy. We can do a lot of stuff at once. Producers especially, we're superheroes. Villains. Hopefully I'm somewhere in the middle at least. So back to the turntable. This is Serato. This is the program that we all pretty much use. Some DJs use other stuff, but most DJs use this. Producers know how to do that when we're making beats. We're EQing lows out of our samples. We're EQing lows out of our keys. We're EQing lows out of vocals, right? We're doing the same thing here. We're just trying to blend two different tracks together so they sound better. Now, I'm going to go the easy route here. I'm going to mix that one in with the other one. They're the same tempo. This shouldn't be hard. But I'm going to be counting 1, 2, 3, and 4 in my head. And I'm going to know that probably after, I know that the intro's 4 measures, so I'm going to want to count 4 measures before I drop that intro in. This starts to become kind of instinctual. I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to use effects on the right to transition out. So that was a smooth transition, and that was easy because the two tracks that I blended in are already the same tempo. Now, of course, the challenge is, what do you do when we're mixing 2 tracks with a different tempo? So on this side I have 72, on this side I have 70. That means this 70 either has to go up to 72 or 72 is going to go down. Well, 72 is playing first, so I'm going to go up. I'm going to adjust this accordingly. I'm going to adjust that 2 notches, and we're going to see if that works. And as you can see, this is digital. It just makes it easier. It's telling you what the new tempo is. So it's telling you it's 72.3. I can kind of nudge it down to 72. Even if that's not there, and it used to not be there, you know, some mixers used to have a BPM counter, but they weren't that accurate. You're using your ears, you're using your brain, you're using your instincts as a music maker to tell if something's off, and if it's off, your brain gets trained to tell whether it's too fast or too slow. You figure it out. So you can't hear what's happening on the left because I'm not opening the horizontal fader yet, the crossfader. So that works, and that was easy. I just mixed 2 tracks in with one another, and these are concepts that I'm sure aren't foreign to you, because all I had to do was change the pitch of the 70 BPM track up a little, up by 2 beats per minute, and it blended in with the 72, or with this. Sorry, I moved the 70 track up by 2 to reach 72 because I'm trying to blend in with a track that's at 72.